HMS Victory passes astern of Bucentaur. She delivers a devastating broadside that cripples Villeneuve's flagship and kills or injures almost half its crew.
Woo! Nelson's battles in 3D Trafalgar. The battle that saved my country, Barbados, from becoming French.
An epic history, Drakenfell collaboration.
I've been waiting for this because I
1792,
have a lot
the French
to say.
Revolution sparked.
I had a lot to say when they reacted to Nelson, but I was like, no. I'm gonna wait until Trafalgar because that's where I'm gonna say it. I've been waiting for it, and it's finally here.
Sparked a European conflict that would last a generation. A struggle for mastery of Europe and the world. A contest fought on land and sea. In this war of shifting alliances, the most enduring rivalry was between France and Britain. Britain could not challenge France on land, but at sea, it was a different matter. Britain's Royal Navy was as dominant on the waves as Napoleon was to prove on land. And in an age when Britain had many skilled naval commanders, one stood out above the rest. Horatio Nelson. Bold, inspiring, and brilliant. For the British, he'd become a national hero and legend. These are the stories of his greatest battles. (1805). The short peace between Britain and France has collapsed, and the two rivals are at war once more. Britain, Russia, and Austria have formed a new alliance, known as the Third Coalition. Napoleon renews the French alliance with Spain. The newly crowned Emperor of the French is determined to finally defeat Britain. The nation that bankrolls the alliances against him, decimates French overseas trade, and blockades her ports. He has assembled a large invasion force on the Channel coast. His battle-hardened troops will make short work of the British.
Right, so a lot of people, interestingly enough, they always debated whether or not Napoleon was truly going to invade Britain. Or if Napoleon just simply set up that large invasion force at Boulogne or whatever the hell you pronounce that city, simply to just simply have an excuse to amass a large army and go and actually fight in the east, right? Interestingly enough, I was watching a documentary on Napoleon I watched a long time ago before I had this channel, and that's a very interesting take, really and truly, because how was Napoleon really gonna get across the English Channel, right? How was he supposed to get across the English Channel? But I don't know. I feel like he, Yep. I wouldn't really completely dismiss that take, though. I'm not saying that it's it's true. I'm just saying I wouldn't completely dismiss that take. I'm just bringing it up to hear what you guys have to say about that.
If he can control the channel long enough to land them safely. The British Navy outclasses the French in number of ships and skill, but it cannot be everywhere at once.
Yeah, this is something that a lot of people tend to overlook. I was drawing a script for why Operation Sea Lion was possible, and this is one of the points that I point out in it, that I will say here, because I usually try not to reveal much of the script. It's like, yes, the British Royal Navy was huge. It was the largest fleet in the world, but that's because Britain had a worldwide empire. Obviously, it needs a lot of ships to manage that, and those ships can't be can't be like in the same spot all at once, because then some of her colonies are going to be exposed, right? So it's like, on paper it seems formidable, but like, you don't really need that much to actually deal with Britain's home fleet as much as you'd think. Granted, the home fleet was still formidable, but I'm just saying, like, the Royal Navy was not as really and truly like big and like scary as, like, it was great. They were skilled, but you just couldn't be everywhere all at once. So if you amassed enough ships in one concentrated point, you could potentially destroy a good chunk of the Royal Navy, and potentially cause a big issue for Britain, because now they lost a bunch of ships. They're going to have to take some ships from somewhere overseas, which is going to potentially expose those overseas colonies to invasion, right? Or hostiles, right? To protect, the British Isles, really and truly. So, yeah. Good on you, Epic History TV, for pointing that out, because a lot of people tend to really gloss that over, and that really annoys the living heck out of me.
So Napoleon will use one of his favorite military principles, concentration of force, to secure temporary dominance at the decisive point. French and Spanish squadrons, scattered in numerous ports, will be brought together to form a giant combined fleet to take on the British. The Emperor gives command of the first phase of this mission to Admiral Pierre Villeneuve. Villeneuve had joined the Navy as a 14-year-old trainee officer and seen service in the American War of Independence. A supporter of the French Revolution, he was one of the few aristocratic officers to remain in naval service.
Oh.
Was promoted to Rear Admiral.
That may have been the reason why he completely... okay. Oh, wow, that butterfly effect, dude. That butterfly effect. Oh, bro. What if he was removed and replaced with someone else? Oof. Oh, that's a big butterfly effect. Because this is the guy who, like, screwed everything over for Napoleon's freaking fleet, actually.
1790.
Just think about that for a second. Because during the French Revolution, all the aristocrats were rid of for the most part. Oh man, and you were just one of the lucky ones to stick around, and that would eventually cost France her whole fleet. Oh, dude, what a big butterfly effect that is.
88. He commanded the 80-gun Guillaume Tell at the Battle of the Nile. His was one of the few ships to escape that disaster. He was later captured,
and he did not. Wow. And he did not die. Wow.
When Malta fell to the British, but was released when peace was declared. In 1804, the commander of the French Mediterranean fleet dies of a heart attack, and Villeneuve replaces him with the rank of Vice Admiral. In temperament, Villeneuve could not be more unlike Nelson. In 1805, he writes to the Minister of the Navy, "You will be so good as to recall that I have not asked for command of this squadron. What is more, I have always sought a practical and useful career. as opposed to one filled with glory.
Oh, so he knew that he wasn't about that.
March,
Oh wow, okay.
1805,
That was
following the emperor's order.
that was on France. That was on France for appointing him. Oh,
Admiral Villeneuve sails from Toulon with 11 ships of the line, slips past Nelson's blockading force, and joins up with 6 Spanish ships and a further French ship off Cadiz. Now with 18 ships, Villeneuve sets off on a 5-week crossing of the Atlantic.
5 weeks.
On arrival in the French West Indies, he links up with another 2 French ships under Rear Admiral Magon.
Bro, okay. This is the first time I see like any historical documentary actually put the Caribbean in like full detail. Okay? So right here is St. Lucia, although this map is still wrong because the islands are a lot closer to each other than what you think. So right here is Barbados, right? And funny thing right here, actually, to give you an idea of how big Barbados actually is, it's 21 miles long, roughly the same length as the shortest crossing between England and France, right? So Barbados is still kind of bigger than what is shown here. But I pointed out how, a long time ago, how the British had firm control over Barbados, and this is why Barbados was able to become the most British Caribbean island in the first place, because they built 45 fortresses, okay? 45 fortresses on a freaking island that's 21 miles long, right? Because Barbados is making so much money for England, right, that Britain could not lose it, okay? I'm sorry, but if I get one more comment that says that's not true or anything, please, it's one simple Google search. You can go Google this, okay? Before India was a thing, the Caribbean was like Britain's jewel, especially Barbados, and later on Jamaica. These two right here, these two were making bank for Britain. Everywhere else, I'm not really too sure, right? So at one point, most of this actually was controlled by the French, aside from Barbados, right? Because no European power just didn't really dare to try and invade Barbados. The Dutch tried once. They tried like raiding the island, and that failed horribly in like the 17th century. During the Dutch Golden Age, they tried that. It failed horribly. Yeah, no European power ever tried doing that ever again, because the island was just way too guarded. Also, due to the island's kind of isolation from the rest of the Caribbean islands, it was strategically speaking in a great position, right? Because it was quite easy to fend off from invasion due to that, because it was kind of far away and it was kind of isolated enough, right? So because of that, and the fact that it was uninhabited when the British first arrived, the English, I should say, it was just able over time to just develop a huge British culture. You know, everything from Britain was basically just adopted, right? Because all these other Caribbean islands right here, they swap hands between so many European powers, is that their culture is very all over the place. Plus, they had natives. They had natives like Dominica right here, right? They still have natives on their island, even to this day. The Taik people, or whatever the heck they're called, I don't know. And this is very, you can see this with their accents as well, right? You hear like a accent from the former British Caribbean, now known as the Commonwealth Caribbean. You only Barbados kind of sounds British, right? Like everywhere I go, people will always say, "Oh, I always wonder why you guys sound like British down there." Or I remember people like Rihanna, because Rihanna's from Barbados too. In her oldest song, if you know who Rihanna is, a lot of people would say, "Oh, why does she sound British in her oldest songs?" And that's why. Because that's why. Some people just don't know that history. So I'm just like pointing out that history for you to better understand, right? And I will be talking more about this. I'm pointing this out because I'm going to be talking more about Admiral Nelson and Barbados later on, because he does have a connection with Barbados that I will talk about, which is what I was waiting on this video for. I'm just giving you kind of a prelude, some context to that, right? But before I continue, even my home city, Bridgetown, was literally nicknamed Fortress Bridgetown because of the amount of defenses that it just had on it. Okay, Britain wouldn't bother building any of these defenses if the island wasn't profitable. Okay, Barbados was literally like one of the richest colonies in the entire New World at its peak, and it was the third richest colony in the entire New World aside from Haiti. This is the size of Haiti. This is Barbados. Haiti, right here, Haiti, right there, and this is Barbados, okay? To give you an idea of how insane that truly is. Aside from Haiti, which was the richest colony in the New World in terms of revenue being generated, and Boston, right? It was behind those two places, and Boston is still pretty huge, right? So, all right, let's continue. I don't have any more to say. Although Epic TV, you should have made the islands a bit bigger, because they're still kind of not as big as as they actually are.
The British, meanwhile, are in disarray. When Nelson lost track of Villeneuve, were heading back to Egypt and raced off in pursuit. He reaches Alexandria before he realizes his mistake. So he doubles back and sets course for the West Indies, a full month behind Villeneuve. Nelson makes the crossing in just 4 weeks, but misses Villeneuve by a matter of days, who sails back to Europe on the 8th of June.
Yes, so notice how Lord Nelson stops by at Barbados, right? Okay, so this is where I have to start saying what I've always wanted to say. Okay, so if you watch my tribute, which is basically my channel trailer on my channel page, you'll notice how I put a picture of Lord Nelson. And if you really paid attention to that, you'll notice how I put that statue of Lord Nelson that used to be right next to our Parliament building in Bridgetown, my home city, Bridgetown, in Barbados, right? Well, Lord Nelson, when he visited, it was said that Lord Nelson, funny enough, I wouldn't really say funny enough. It was said that he loved Barbados so much, and he loved the people of Barbados very much, and that he actually had a wonderful time there. And Barbadians, being very prideful people, we have a lot of pride. We took that with our hearts, even though slavery was still around. I mean, we took that with our hearts. So, we cherished the Barbadians there at the time, cherished his visits. And, when he would die, they would eventually erect the statue in Bridgetown to commemorate him. And not only that, but they also erected the statue because his sacrifice did indirectly save Barbados from a potential invasion from the French. Potentially. Because at this time period, when the Napoleonic Wars eventually began, the French Revolution, Britain wasted no time Britain wasted absolutely no time taking whatever French islands it could have. Because keep in mind, majority of the Lesser Antilles was actually French at this point, until the French Revolution came and the Napoleonic Wars came. Britain wasted absolutely no time taking whatever it could in the French West Indies. And it was able to do that because of its naval dominance. Now, if Britain had lost that naval dominance, and the people of Barbados were well aware of what was going on, especially when Nelson came with his ships, the people were very concerned that they didn't want to be a French colony. They did not want, guys. And keep in mind, slavery was still around. Slavery was very much still around. So that should tell you something. They didn't want to be a French colony because the British were better treating than them, especially towards the slaves. And they, by no means, they really did not want to be a French colony. Like, that was just a big no-no. Like, they were terrified of being a French colony because they were afraid that all the privileges that they had being under British rule would evaporate, and that slavery would become a lot more worse had Barbados been taken over by the French. So later on, Lord Nelson would become controversial in Barbados. He would become extremely controversial in Barbados because of slavery, and apparently they found some letters or something where he said that he hated his stay in Barbados, and he said that the place was horrible. Now, keep in mind, the West Indies in this time period was by no means the, super duper prosperous tourist hotspots that they were today. No. Oh, no. Guys, the West Indies, especially the Lesser Antilles, I mean, the tropical weather, the heat, the diseases, I mean, obviously, they were not pretty. It was not pretty. And it pisses me off, personally speaking, because really and truly, obviously, any white person who's not been living in the Caribbean, that weather would get to them. Like, that weather would be absolutely horrible to them. So it became super duper controversial, where people were like taking it as an insult that he insulted Barbados. And this is one of the reasons why they eventually would come to remove his statue, or at least the left-wing government would come to remove his statue, which is absolutely ridiculous. I think that's absolutely dumb. Now, slavery, and this is the main reason why, they said that he helped keep slavery, and that he owned slaves. And I was like, what? That was absolutely ridiculous. It's absolutely not, because Lord Nelson, no, really and truly, he didn't even care about slaves. He was just doing his duty as admiral, right? He was just doing his duty as admiral. He did not care about slaves. In fact, he actually released slaves on his ships, which, hilariously enough, of course, they're going to conveniently ignore that. They're going to conveniently ignore that part, right? The stupid left-wing government. This was the same left-wing government, by the way, that completely illegally, just undemocratically abolished monarchy without anyone having a say, of course. So I'm gonna, just let the video play on for a little bit before I continue talking, because, like I said, I do have a lot to say, but we're only 5 minutes in, so let's continue.
But then, a lucky break for the British. Nelson sends a fast-sailing ship to carry his reports back to England, and by sheer good chance, it spots Villeneuve's fleet in the Atlantic.
Wow.
Their course is not back to the Med, as Nelson had assumed, but more northerly, towards the Channel. Vice Admiral Calder, with 15 ships of the line, is put on high alert, and on the 22nd of July, he intercepts Villeneuve off Cape Finisterre.
Oh!
In confused fighting, in heavy fog, the British capture 2 Spanish ships. But Calder fails to prevent Villeneuve reaching the Spanish port of Ferrol.
Still though, that's...
The French admiral then makes a fateful decision. His orders are clear: proceed to Brest and then on to the Channel. But reports of ships to the north persuade him that he is about to be attacked by Britain's powerful Channel fleet. His ships, battered by Atlantic gales and battle, cannot fight again without repairs. So he retreats to Cadiz. Here he is soon blockaded by a growing number of British ships.
How true were those reports, though?
Napoleon is furious when he receives this news. Villeneuve does not possess the strength of character to command a frigate, he tells the naval minister. It is nearly autumn, and a cross-channel invasion is now impossible. Villeneuve has failed him, and Napoleon must look for other ways to defeat the British.
A newsflash.
Oh, what if? Oh, that's such an interesting what if scenario.
In late August,
what if he followed the orders?
Troops break camp at Boulogne and march off to face the Austrians and Russians on the Danube. In the meantime, he sends orders to Admiral Villeneuve to sail into the Mediterranean, where he is to support French operations in Italy. But his Franco-Spanish combined fleet is not in good shape. It is short of supplies and men, and blockaded by a powerful British force, now commanded by Admiral Nelson. Villeneuve decides to stay put. But when Napoleon informs him that he is being replaced as commander, the French admiral is finally stung into action. On the 18th of October 1805, he orders the Franco-Spanish fleet to put to sea. Admiral Villeneuve's combined fleet consists of 33 ships of the line, 18 French and 15 Spanish. Admiral Villeneuve's flagship is the 80-gun Bucentaure. The Spanish contingent is led by Admiral Gravina aboard Príncipe de Asturias of 112 guns.
Wow.
Nelson had been waiting for the enemy with 34 ships of the line, but has just had to send 6 to Gibraltar for resupply and refit.
136 guns. What the heck is that ship?
Aboard HMS Prince of Wales, is sent home to face a court-martial for his lackluster performance at Cape Finisterre. So Nelson's now slightly outnumbered, 27 ships against 33, though he has 3 powerful first-rates, his own flagship Victory, Britannia, and Vice Admiral Collingwood's Royal Sovereign. Both fleets are accompanied by several frigates for scouting and relaying messages. On paper, the Royal Navy is heavily outgunned, but the British know they can rely on superior seamanship and faster gunnery to even the odds. After 8 weeks in Cadiz, Villeneuve is finally back at sea. But he's given his own captains little warning of their sudden departure, and has set sail in unfavourable light winds. As they crawl south along the Spanish coast, they are spotted by British frigates. They relay news of the enemy's departure to Nelson and the British fleet, patrolling 40 miles offshore. Nelson immediately sets course to intercept. On the morning of the 21st of October, Villeneuve's fleet is about 10 miles northwest of Cape Trafalgar, bound for the Straits of Gibraltar. When the British fleet is spotted closing in from the northwest, Villeneuve faces a dilemma. He considers running for the Mediterranean or facing the British in battle, but ultimately he orders the fleet to reverse course and sail back to Cadiz.
Bro, what? Incompetency final boss.
This abrupt change in course, combined with light winds and many inexperienced crews, causes the combined fleet's formation to become extremely ragged. It now forms a rough crescent, stretching over 5 miles of sea. Psychologically and tactically, Villeneuve's fleet is already on the back foot. The contrast with the British fleet could not be starker. Nelson's crews are eager for battle, and he has devised a bold plan to ensure a decisive action. By 11 AM, the British fleet is formed up for battle, and closing with Villeneuve as fast as the light breeze will allow. Nelson had decided on a basic plan of attack weeks earlier. The orthodox tactic at this time would be to line up his fleet alongside the enemy and trade broadsides with them. But Nelson believes these methods too often lead to an indecisive outcome. Instead, he has decided on the bold but not unprecedented tactic of attacking in 2 columns. These will pierce the enemy line and split their fleet into sections to be overwhelmed and defeated in close action before the enemy's vanguard can double back to help. The major drawback is that during the approach, the lead British ships of each column will come under heavy fire, while being completely unable to fight back. Naturally, Nelson decides he himself will lead one column aboard HMS Victory.
Of
The
course.
other will be led by Vice Admiral Collingwood aboard HMS Royal Sovereign.
And, Villeneuve, despite the fact that he was kind of incompetent as hell, he actually was aware of that tactic that Nelson does. He was by no means not unaware of it, actually. He actually was aware of it. He just, despite the fact that he was aware of it, he just kind of just messed everything up. I mean, there's no other way to put it.
As the British ships begin their approach, Nelson asks that a signal be sent to the fleet. England confides that every man will do his duty. For ease of signalling, it becomes England expects that every man will do his duty. Light winds mean the 2 British columns creep forward at around 3 knots, not much more than walking speed. The lead British ships will be under fire for a tense 45 minutes before they reach the enemy line. The gunfire starts at noon, with the French 74 Fougue firing ranging shots towards Royal Sovereign. Gradually, gunfire from the combined fleet builds to a steady thunder. The French and Spanish gun crews lack practice, and their ships are side-on to the wind, increasing the roll. So most of their shots miss their mark. A new signal flies up Victory's mizzenmast. Engage the enemy more closely. It will remain there until later shot away. As the range closes, Spanish gunners begin to land more and more shots on target. The sails of HMS Victory and Royal Sovereign are peppered by round shot. Spars are knocked down. Victory's ship's wheel is hit and destroyed. Casualties steadily mount. Twice, British ships try to overtake Victory to protect Nelson, but he orders them back into position.
Bro, Nelson is the GOAT, bro.
Nelson intends to break.
Oh my gosh, this man, Nelson, Lord Nelson, man, truly deserves your title for real, Lord Nelson, man. Oh my goodness gracious me.
Break the enemy line at Villeneuve's flagship, the Bucentaure. Targeting the enemy commander is part of his ruthless approach. But the enemy's ragged formation and a lack of identifying pennants means he has to guess which is Villeneuve's flagship. Fortunately, he guesses right, and around 12:30, HMS Victory is poised to break the line just astern of Bucentaure. But it's Collingwood's fast-sailing Royal Sovereign to the south that will break the line first. The British have held their fire during their long approach. They've been under attack for...
You know what's insane to me is how, like, from our perspective, it seems like they're like standing straight up, but like unironically, like what we saw there just now. Wait, I'm gonna show you what I mean. Hold on a second.
With no way to fight back. That's about to change.
And the French completely missed and didn't do anything. Wow.
Double shotted, loaded with 2 rounds. Now, as HMS Royal Sovereign passes the Spanish first-rate Santa Ana, she fires a massive, raking broadside into her stern. Several minutes later, HMS Victory passes astern of Bucentaure. She delivers a devastating broadside that cripples Villeneuve's flagship and kills or injures almost half its crew.
Whoa! Oh my... What?
Despite these 2 powerful blows, the lead British...
Okay, yeah, this is what I mean. Unironically speaking, like, this is actually how it looks. If you actually viewed this from, like, space or something, like, if you had a way to, like, zoom in on the Earth, like, it's just a random, I don't know, I guess, shower thought. Like, yo, they're not actually fighting up straight. They're fighting on the... They're literally fighting on the side. But, you know, obviously, Earth's gravity is holding them. Obviously, duh. But I'm just saying, like, that's just... The more I think about that, the more I'm like, wow. That is kind of mad.
Ships are, for the moment, hugely outnumbered and in real danger. Collingwood's Royal Sovereign is under fire from all directions. The second ship of his column, HMS Belle-Isle, has been completely demasted. HMS Mars is also taking punishing fire. HMS Victory has got tangled up with Redoutable, which has a strong complement of French Marines. In intense, close-quarters fighting, the isolated British vanguard must hang on. until the rest of their ships can join the action.
I mean, they're hanging on. They're doing more than hanging on. The French is absolutely fumbled.
So how would you...
No captain can do very wrong if you place this ship alongside the enemy. Oh, we're getting the good music.
After 20 precarious
We're getting
minutes,
good music.
British ships are arriving, one by one, to join the battle.
Oh yeah, that's
They
over.
pile into the disordered
Oh, it's more
enemy
than over.
formation, unleashing double-shotted broadsides to devastating effect. Victory now receives much-needed support from Téméraire. As successive British ships enter the fray, a mass brawl develops. It's exactly what Nelson wants, the enemy unable to escape and pummeled at close range. Meanwhile, Admiral Dumanoir's Franco-Spanish vanguard has begun an agonizingly slow turn to try to rejoin the battle. But it will be more than an hour before they're in position. HMS Africa, a 64-gun third rate, had earlier become separated from the British fleet. Her captain, Henry Digby, now deliberately misinterprets Nelson's order to withdraw to safety. Instead, he charges straight into the battle from the north. HMS Africa sails alone past the entire enemy vanguard, trading broadsides all the way.
Yeah, who is this?
Then she joins the attack on the giant Santissima Trinidad of 136 guns.
Oh yeah, that's the ship that I was talking about earlier with all those guns, man.
Victory and Redoutable are now locked in a brutal, close-quarters slugging match. British guns smash the French hull to splinters, while Redoutable's crew assemble on deck to board Victory. At this crucial moment, HMS Téméraire appears on Redoutable's starboard side and blasts her deck with grape shot. The French boarding party is mown down. All three ships become locked together and drift into another French ship, Fougue. Some French and Spanish ships, like Admiral Magon's Algeciras, have used their time in port to train their crews for boarding and close-quarter combat. It makes them dangerous foes in close action. But time and again, just as a French or Spanish ship forms a boarding party, a British ship emerges through the smoke to sweep their deck with grape shot.
Oh my gosh!
Superior British gunnery is slowly grinding down the enemy.
Holy crap, man!
One by one, the first French and Spanish ships haul down their colours as a sign of their surrender. At the height of the battle, a French sniper, perched high on Redoutable's mizzenmast, spots the British commander on the quarterdeck of HMS Victory. Nelson is easily distinguished by his bright decorations, which, against advice, he has refused to remove.
This man had to flex. This man had to flex, bro. This man had to flex.
Now, he is struck by a single musket ball, which plunges into his shoulder and down through his spine.
Oh! Oh! Oh no! 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 Oh, no wonder why he died. I always wondered, like, how did he die from one single shot, especially a musket shot? Oh, his spine. Damn. Okay. Yep. That makes sense.
Finally succeeded, Nelson exclaims. I am dead.
Damn. I don't like. Didn't like he thought that he was gonna like die before, but like he survived. Oh nah, bro.
He is carried below for medical treatment, where he's brought frequent reports on the progress of the battle. It is now 3 hours since battle was joined. To the south, the French 74 Achille, under fire from multiple ships, has caught fire. While to the north, Dumanoir's vanguard is finally in position to join the battle. But only Intrépide makes a determined attack. The other ships fire a few ineffective long-range shots, then veer away, rather than engage the British in close action.
They don't want the smoke. They don't want the smoke.
One captured Spanish crew, witnessing this conduct, is so enraged that they offer to open fire on their supposed allies. But the French ships soon slip out of range. They can see that Villeneuve's fleet is beaten.
Poor Spain, bro. Poor Spain. Oh my gosh. That's so sad for Spain, dude. Spain had it rough in the Napoleonic Wars, bro.
A dozen French and Spanish ships have now surrendered. Those that can are escaping. The news reaches Nelson, who hovers between life and death on the orlop deck of HMS Victory. He knows the end is near. He whispers to his old friend and comrade, Captain Hardy, "Take care of my dear Lady Hamilton, and then kiss me, Hardy." A few moments pass. "Thank God I have done my duty," Nelson murmurs, and dies soon after.
Heartbreaking, man. Don't put me on the verge of tears right now, F History TV. Seriously, bro. And this is why I was so pissed off when they removed his statue in Barbados, because that's all he cared about doing. All he cared about doing was just doing his duty, and that was it. He didn't care about slavery. That was literally the primary reason why they removed his statue, because ignorance, dude. It is disgusting, honestly, how ignorant many people in my country have become. 100 years ago, it was not like this. It really was not like this. It really wasn't. It just blows my mind. Like, I remember before they completely removed his statue, like they vandalized it. Some people vandalized it and freaking put freaking BLM, Black Lives Matter. Like that's an American thing. Shaking my head on someone, and they put like freaking, I don't know, like slave owner or something on this freaking statue. I don't even freaking know. It was ridiculous. Like, how could you forget why the statue was put there in the first place? Because, and some people debate this now. Some people in Barbados are debating this now. Nobody wanted to become a French colony. Nobody wanted to become a French colony. And his sacrifice ensured Britain's naval dominance. And because of his sacrifice, he saved Barbados from a potential French invasion, which nobody wanted at the time. Plain and simple. It genuinely blows my mind to just see how low the people of my country are becoming. It's like a spit in the face to our ancestors and our great grandparents or our great relatives. It really is. It really is. Because seriously, 100 years ago, even now today, people are like, oh, like 100 years ago, literally 100 years ago, people, and I even had like English people, many English people that I've talked to, like older English people, right? Like I talked to, they always be like, oh, you're from the Barbados. Oh yeah, I know you guys. Like they always used to say, like, oh yeah, back in the days, I always heard people from Barbados. Every time I meet people from Barbados, they always would be proud because they always told me that they're like the most British Caribbean island, and they always would be proud of that, right? Every single English person I met, that like older English person, they always say that. They'd be like, oh yeah, you guys, yeah, you guys always like to brag about how you're the most British Caribbean island. Yeah, I know you guys. But now today, I mean, the left wing, just liberal stupidness is plaguing the island. It's ridiculous. Now everything that the people talk about is just slavery. Bro, do you understand that there's more to that, more to Barbados than just slavery? And this is why I get idiots in my comments who comment foolishness thinking that I'm bothered by it, but I don't care. I mean, enrages. I mean, it's one thing. First of all, deleting history. I hate when people delete history. That boils my blood. So you want to know what's even ridiculous? You know what they replaced the statue with in Nelson's I think they called it Trafalgar Square. That's what it was called. The street in my home state. It was called Trafalgar Square. It was named after. It was actually built before the actual the other one in the other Trafalgar Square. That statue, the one that we built, was built before. And again, you know, back then, Barbadians would proudly point out that fact that, oh, we had our own Trafalgar Square before one in Britain came about. Okay, they were quick to build a statue commemorating Nelson. And it's absolutely ridiculous because you think today, if you were a French overseas territory today, you think you would have any room to complain about slavery? You think you would have any room to cry and moan and talk about reparations? You think you'd have any room to do the nonsense, frankly speaking, that you're doing? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And it just annoys me, dude. Sure, he may have hated the island, even though I think that's BS. I was actually looking into that, and actually some historians were actually saying that, yeah, those letters, yeah, that's probably BS. So he probably unironically actually did love Barbados, like originally claimed. But even if he unironically didn't hate the island, I mean, I don't blame him. Because back then, times were so different. We don't have the technology now to freaking deal with the scorching humidity and tropical weather and heat. We don't have medicine to deal with freaking tropical diseases. I mean, even when I lived down there, I was still afraid of those stuff, bro. Like dengue fever, yellow fever from those mosquitoes. I was terrified of that living in Barbados. Especially during like raining season. Oh my gosh, I was so terrified of getting that. So I don't blame him if that is true. But what I don't understand is where they said that he owned slaves. Or that he was responsible for slavery. That's what they're saying. Or that he was like a white supremacist. I'm not making this up, by the way. This is stuff that people are literally saying down there. Like, I know I'm rambling on for so long and so long, and a lot of you have probably skipped, but for those people who genuinely like my reactions, who genuinely like what I have to say, thank you for not skipping, by the way. I'm saying this for you to hear, not those fake watchers, by the way. Screw them. Screw them. I don't care about them. Those people are there to give me free ad revenue, and that's it. The actual people who like to hear what I have to say, I'm saying this for you to hear. I'm gonna be quite brutally honest right now. Really and truly. And I'm sure anybody who loves the Napoleonic Wars, or anybody who just likes this type of history, especially in this time period, would absolutely feel the same way that I do about that whole Lord Nelson controversy in Barbados. Absolutely ridiculous. Like, I just do not understand. I mean, even then, like 10 years ago, times were so different when I used to live there. Times were so different 10 years ago. Like, it was not this bad. Like, this liberal plague wasn't so bad when I lived there. Like, I remember people were still visibly, some people still are, very much still are. Some people were very much still proud of their history and their heritage that they inherited from England. But now, ever since I've moved from there, it's just gotten worse and worse and worse. Culminating in the illegal, undemocratic removal of the monarchy. And now the statue was replaced. Oh, I didn't even say what the hell the statue was replaced by. They literally built some garbage. Hold on a second. Right. So this right here is what they replaced the statue with. Guys, I really don't pause the video that much and go on something a little bit off topic. But I just want to show you the ridiculousness that they replaced the statue with. This is what they replaced the statue. This is a new statue. And you want to know what it's about? Guess. It's about slavery. Really? Really? Look, you can see it right here. The chains and the people holding, carrying the chains, because, that's what the slaves had, of course, even though it was the Africans who mostly sold the slaves to the Europeans, of course, but they just do not want to point that out, hilariously enough, right? This is what they replaced the statue with, right? This. And this right here is the old statue. Look at that. Vandalized. We have idiots protesting. This is before it was taken down, years ago, like a couple years back, right? Look at this. It says, take down the Nelson statue, put up a Beijing, right? Even though there's the reason why he's been put up there is literally right here, right? You have idiots protesting on the statue. It's just a bunch of shite. It is. I don't know what else to say. So, it's just absolutely dumb and ridiculous to see just how low the people of Barbados have gotten, right? I mean, those images that you've seen yourself, right? Those images, it looks like you're in London. Like, my home city is literally a twin city of London. You can literally just go look at Barbados for yourself. Every single English person whom I've talked to, they always say, oh yeah, your country, it just feels like a county in England. It just looks like a regular English county. Is that how much are you going to be brainwashed by leftist propaganda and just completely forget your heritage? And just delete history. That's the thing that boils me. Deleting the history. Why? But slavery, I'm not denying that slavery is a part of the country's history too. But when you start cherry picking history, when you start doing that for political reasons, that's when I start to get mad. That's when I start to get mad. And you want to know what's funny about all of this too, right? All of this nonsense that the current people and government of Barbados are doing is hilarious, because now I read an article a long time ago that there was a cultural crisis in Barbados. Well, of course there's going to be a cultural crisis, because our culture is English culture, British culture, duh. And when you start denying your culture, of course you're going to have a cultural crisis, duh. I mean, the ignorance, dude, it's just a spit in the face to our ancestors that fought in World War One, that probably fought in World War One for the Queen. I mean, King and Queen, really and truly. Probably served for Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. Hell, even our slave ancestors too. Because Britain would eventually actually go on a crusade against slavery. When British people actually found out how barbaric slavery truly was, they demanded for it to be abolished. So that's the thing that I do not understand, is why are they doing all of this? Why are they so ignorant that they can't even open a book and realize that fact? But what they say, the current people today, the current people of Barbados, what they say is, oh, they were brainwashed. Oh, those people back then, those people, oh, yeah, no, they weren't patriotic. They weren't proud. They were brainwashed. They were brainwashed by the British. The British brainwashed them. God knows how. Like, anyways, all I'm saying here is, it is absolutely disrespectful to Nelson to remove his statue, to have the audacity to call him a white supremacist, a slave owner, somebody who willfully carried out slavery even though he set slaves freed on his ships, the guy who literally sacrificed himself to protect you, because Barbados was still a British colony, and he protected him. He sacrificed himself not just for England but for her overseas territories as well. So it wasn't just for England too, by the way. Sacrificed himself to prevent you from getting a potential French invasion that nobody wanted back then. My. Okay, I'm sorry. Like, this is, just thinking about it is like making me lose brain cells. But I think I got everything that I wanted to say out my chest. It's just absolutely ridiculous, dude. Absolutely ridiculous.
Around 6 p.m, at the southern edge of the battle, the fires aboard Achille reach her grand magazine. The ship is obliterated in an enormous explosion that kills half her crew instantly.
Oh my goodness.
This spectacular, bloody event proves the final act of a battle that has claimed 5,000 lives. And it is now clear that it has been a total and decisive British victory. Of the 33 French and Spanish ships under Villeneuve's command, 17 have been captured and 1 destroyed. And though several British ships are badly damaged, none have been lost.
Wow. And you wanna know, it's funny because they had the advantage at the start too, and they still could not destroy one ship when they had the advantage at the start. Wow.
The casualties are similarly one-sided. Admiral Villeneuve is among several thousand prisoners taken by the British. He is allowed to return to France, but 6 months later he is dead. By suicide or murder remains unclear.
Damn!
The Spanish commander, Admiral Gravina, escapes the battle, but dies of his wounds 6 months later.
Rest in peace, rest in peace.
For the British, victory is tainted by the loss of their own brilliant, talismanic commander.
Why can't you?
As he lay dying, Nelson's last order to the fleet had been to drop anchor, fearing bad weather. He was not wrong. A ferocious Atlantic storm soon develops, battering the victorious fleet and its many prizes. The gales howl for days, causing chaos and scattering battle-damaged ships across miles of ocean. The French and Spanish take advantage, trying to retake some of their captured ships. French frigates recapture the Spanish first-rate Santa Ana. 4 captured crews rise up against their British captors and retake their own ships.
Why is this plot
3
twist?
of these are driven ashore and wrecked.
Oh, never mind. Okay.
Despite immense efforts, the British save only 4 of their 17 captured prizes. The rest are burned or lost to the storm, which probably claims more French and Spanish lives than the battle itself.
Nasty, nasty, nasty.
For the French, there seems no end to the bad news. 2 weeks later, Admiral Dumanoir and his 4 French ships which had escaped the battle are intercepted by Captain Strachan's squadron off Cape Ortegal. All 4 French ships are captured. For the British, it caps a remarkable fortnight of naval triumphs. Admiral Nelson's body is returned to England aboard HMS Victory, preserved in a cask of brandy, lashed to the mainmast. He becomes the first non-royal to receive a state funeral in Britain since the Duke of Marlborough, 83 years earlier. For 3 days his body lies in state in the painted hall of Greenwich Hospital, where it is visited by thousands. Then he is moved by river to St. Paul's Cathedral, where the funeral procession includes 32 admirals, 189 carriages, and thousands of troops. Nelson's coffin, made of timbers from the French warship L'Orient, is placed in a sarcophagus in the cathedral crypt. News of Trafalgar takes 4 weeks to reach Napoleon near Vienna. He is en route to his own great victory over the Russians and Austrians at Austerlitz. But of
Oh, what the heck? Guys, look, they're doing the Roman salute. They're doing the Roman salute. Look at that.
the 2 famous battles of 1805, Trafalgar will have far greater consequences. The Battle of Trafalgar is one of the most crushing victories in naval history. It did not save Britain from invasion. That danger had already passed. But the sheer scale of victory ensured British supremacy at sea was unchallenged for the remaining 10 years of the Napoleonic Wars.
And that's the thing, is like Britain herself was fine. Britain herself was fine because, you know, she had the home fleet. Of course, it's gonna have like more than enough to protect. But it's the overseas territories that didn't have that privilege, obviously, you know, including us in Barbados at the time, which was, you know, obviously still a colony of Britain, right? And, you know, really and truly, there was still a very, very understandable fear that Barbados would receive an invasion from France, or potentially, because this was early early 19th century. So yes, at this point, India was, starting to, become colonized completely by Britain. However, Barbados was still generating good amounts of money for Britain still, right? Keep that in mind, okay? And we've seen plenty of attempts in the Napoleonic Wars where Napoleon actually did try to mess with Britain's economy to make her capitulate. So it's not insane to think, if he does have enough naval supremacy in the West Indies, the Caribbean, also known as the West Indies, like, would he, try to mess with her colonies there in the West Indies? Similar to how Britain immediately went and took over plenty of the French West Indies, whatever it could have, as soon as these wars began, right? Keep in mind, and people tend to overlook the Caribbean theater of war. Like I say in my videos all the time, in Mother's Country, St. Lucia, which is now a Commonwealth realm with King Charles as head of the state, I always point out how it swapped hands 13 times. 13 times between the British and the French. Like, it was the most fought over possession. I think it has a record, like a world record for being like one of the most fought over possessions that swap hands so many times. Freaking 13 times. 13 times. 13 times. Every single war that Britain and France got into in 17th century, 17th century, 18th century, 19th century, St. Lucia just got invaded either by the British or by the French, right? So, who's not to say that wouldn't happen to Barbados during the Napoleonic Wars, right? Because I've had some people who say, oh, well, Barbados didn't really have a threat from Napoleon. Yeah, that's because the Royal Navy kept it like that, especially after Trafalgar, right? Trafalgar solidified that fact. But had Trafalgar went differently, those overseas territories would have been a lot more exposed. Let's continue.
Napoleon had to look for other means to defeat the British. A path that would lead him into grave errors and pave the way for his own eventual defeat. For Britain, the naval dominance secured at Trafalgar would underpin her imperial power throughout the 19th century, an age she dominated as the world's leading global empire. The Royal Navy would not face a serious challenge at sea until the Battle of Jutland, more than a century later.
Insane.
Amazon hates this.
Now, do you think AI is improving the quality of videos you're seeing?
Okay. This is, sponsor. But, again, like I said before, that's why the statue was erected in Trafalgar Square, or what used to be Trafalgar Square, I guess, in Barbados. And that's why the people, wanted, erected it, because, at the end of the day, he sacrificed himself, because there was still a good fear of Barbados getting completely invaded by France, and of course nobody wanted that. If you made it this far into the video, congratulations. If you're new to my channel, go like and subscribe. Please consider becoming a channel member for as little as 99 cents, as I am getting more and more people on my channel slowly but surely. If you become a channel member, because some people like me to react to some things, and I'm just one guy, I can't react to everything all at once. If you become a channel member for 99 cents, you basically just, like, I react to your stuff more. Okay, you have more priority for me to react to your stuff. If you have suggestions for me to react to, make sure you comment it down below. Make sure you like the video as well so that it stays on the algorithm. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.